Melanie Petrucci, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you my friend, Beth Casavant, who today is here to the viewing audience can get to know her better. She is, in case you didn't know, one of 5 candidates for the 2 open seats. Well, one's open because Henry Fitzgerald isn't seeking re-election. The other one, Mo DiPaolo. But she is one of 5 candidates in a contested Board of Selectmen race that will be decided on Tuesday, May 2nd. So, Beth, thank you for joining me today, and
Thanks
I'm
for
delighted
having me here
to have a chat with you.
No, this is great.
So let's start with the most obvious question. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you are running for the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, well, that's a great question, and I'm really glad to have the opportunity to share a little bit more about myself with you, but also with people that are watching at home. I grew up in Torrington, Connecticut, and I grew up watching my father, who ran for the school board when I was in 1st grade and served as chairman for 12 years. He was also a small business owner in town, and my mom taught 2nd grade. And so from my mother, I went on to a career of my own in education after graduating from Skidmore College based on the example that she set for me. So my whole family lived in town. My grandparents lived right next door to me, and growing up, we would be able to just walk next door and visit my grandparents whenever I wanted to, Sunday dinners with my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins right in town. And I always thought that Torrington, Connecticut would be the place where my husband and I would raise our own family someday. My parents went to high school together. My in-laws went to high school together. Scott and I, that's my husband, we went to high school together. It just seemed to be the natural progression. But then once we both graduated college, we realized that career opportunities didn't exist in our hometown anymore. And when we looked around, just the level of service that residents were receiving, and also the quality of the schools. And we knew right away that we wanted to have a family, and it just wasn't what we wanted for our family, and we had to look elsewhere. And eventually we found what we were looking for in a community right here in Shrewsbury. And so part of my reason for running for the Board of Selectmen is because I want to ensure that Shrewsbury remains a great place to live, work, raise a family, and retire, so that if our children, and we have 2 daughters, decide that they would like to live in Shrewsbury someday, they have that opportunity. It's still a community that's a viable option for them. So part of it is my love of municipal government, but also this desire to want to make sure that this place that is so wonderful is protected.
That's great. All right, what do you see as the most important issues facing our town right now?
That's a great question, and I think that there's many different ways to answer because the town is multifaceted, and it's while it's a wonderful community, it's not without issues. But I think right now the most important thing that a selectman will do is to support the transition to the next town manager. And most people know that Dan Morgado, our longtime town manager, is retiring in July, and that leaves a very big and scary gap. We've only had 2 town managers in Shrewsbury, longtime town managers. There was someone that served for about 4 years. But as far as town managers go, we've had Dan for 20 years. Those are some big shoes to fill. To me, I can see where it would be a source of maybe a little bit of discomfort for people, not sure what's coming next. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's an opportunity to really change or improve upon the direction of our town. Maybe bring in some new ideas. But whoever that person is, the manager is going to need the support of the Board of Selectmen and the guidance of the Board of Selectmen. The other thing that I think is really interesting is not only are we going to be replacing our town manager, but we have a number of key department heads that are at or near retirement age. And for example, John Knight from our highway department is ready to retire in the near future, and so is Bob Cox of Public Buildings. And when you think about these people, they have been here for decades. I was doing some research on our Public Buildings department, and I went down to the town clerk and I asked to see the annual report from 1988. And when I flipped to the page, there's Bob Cox's picture from 1988. That's a long time ago.
Why did you pick 1988?
Oh, because I was making a comparison between the square footage of space that we have now in our municipal buildings to the square footage of space that we had in 1988. And just as an aside, right now our public buildings department maintains about 1 million square feet of space, and they have, I believe it's 8 employees. And if you look back to 1988, there were 500,000 square feet of space in municipal buildings, and they were doing that with about 22 employees. So I was trying to see, the ways in which they're doing more with less, because I was studying just the different departments and what their needs were, just in an effort to bring myself up to speed. So I want to know what the most immediate needs are, and that's one of the reasons that I was looking into the annual report from 1988. I just think the experience and the knowledge that longtime department heads and a longtime town manager bring to the table, I mean, that's irreplaceable. That's going to be a very big change for our community. And again, that's why I made sure that I went and spoke with those people so that I had an understanding of sort of the historical trends they've noticed in their departments. What's the change been over time? What's the direction that you think you're heading in? What are the needs that you have? What's working, what's not working? Because all of that's going to need to be communicated to the next town manager, and the person who takes that seat on the Board of Selectmen needs to be ready to be effective in supporting that transition. I think of equal importance to me is my desire to invest in and preserve our public safety departments and our public schools and our infrastructure. I think it's really no secret to anyone who's lived here for a while that we face a structural budget deficit every year. And if I'm elected in May, I think it's critically important that I understand the needs of each town department in terms of what additional resources they need, so that when it comes time for the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee and the School Committee to have a conversation, I'm able to prioritize what the different needs are in town, so that when I make a decision, it's from a place of accurate information.
And then we go directly to town meeting.
We do.
Shortly after the election.
Yes, we absolutely do. And hopefully I will be successful in my bid to win a seat on the Board of Selectmen and be able to really have an impact on our decisions at town meeting and the work that goes into leading up to town meeting also.
Right.
So let's see. When I actually wanted to talk to you about when I first announced my candidacy too, just sort of staying in that same
That's key.
vein of the priorities. One of the things that I did was to make an appointment to meet with each department head. And I announced my candidacy in November, and so I had quite a bit of time to sit down and talk with them in advance of the Finance Committee budget hearings that happened in February. So there's, for those who don't know, 2 Saturdays in February all day where the Finance Committee has each municipal department come in to meet with them and present their budget for the next fiscal year. And they're able to talk about what the needs are and where the funds are going and what other things they could use funding for and whether or not that's something that can be supported in the budget or not. And then the school committee does the same thing. They most recently did it just last weekend in March. There was a Saturday budget hearing, so the same thing happens. So I also sat down with members of Finance Committee, School Committee, and the Board of Selectmen because I believe it was important to have their take on the way that things work in the community and what they see the needs and priorities are, so that I have an idea of kind of where to focus my attention. But I also went and talked with other people that might not be at the forefront of someone's mind if they were running for the Board of Selectmen. Like I said, I feel like there's a lot of issues that are interrelated. I know one of the things that I'd like to look at is increasing our economic development. And why are we having a harder time attracting business to Shrewsbury? So someone said to me, well, part of it's our sewer capacity, so maybe you should talk to the sewer commissioner. So I did. I tracked down Peter Riley, who's a member of the sewer commission. We sat down, we had a cup of coffee, and he talked to me about sewer capacity and what we could do to bring increased capacity to the area on Route 20, where there's a lot of opportunity for commercial development, but yet it's lacking in the sewer capacity to bring that commercial development. So that was interesting. The other thing is we're a lake community. We have properties on Lake Quinsigamon. And so I went and spoke with Peter Collins, who is a member of the Lake Quinsigamon District Commission, so that he can talk to me about what are those unique needs being faced by people that have property on the lake, live in that region, use the lake. What is it that is most important to them? And we talked a lot about the management of the weeds, but also that we share responsibility for Lake Quinsigamon with Worcester and Grafton, and how even though our
Even
community,
Grafton?
yes,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, so even though our community is very supportive of putting some funding, I believe it's asked for is $35,000 each year, is putting that share of funding toward maintaining the lake, dealing with issues related to the lake. Peter also has to go talk to Grafton Town Meeting and Grafton Board of Selectmen, and then do the same thing in Worcester in order to get the 3 communities to contribute to the maintenance and upkeep of the lake. And that was something that I didn't know until I sat down and talked with him.
Okay, that's tough.
Yeah. So it was interesting also. The other thing that I wanted to make sure I understood was our pension, like our retirement obligation, and our OPEB, the other post-employment benefits, which is basically health care.
Right.
Because those are 2 major cost drivers in our budget.
Other communities as well.
Other communities as well, and Shrewsbury is actually doing an amazing job of making sure that that obligation is dealt with in a timely fashion and is met. We're not kicking the can down the road, and I think that's important. I think of it as my mortgage on my house, where I wouldn't just let the payments pile up, because in the long run, that would cost me a lot more money, and it would be detrimental to my overall credit rating. In the same way, not funding our pension or our OPEB obligations makes us less attractive to, let's say, Moody's index when we go out to get bonds for projects that we're doing in town, whether it be the library or a school or any kind of project in that regard. So we are one of the few communities that's on track to have the retirement funded by 2022 or 2021 from what I'm hearing. But what that does is it creates an opportunity to have a conversation around that it's about $5 million that every year is put towards that cost. What do we want to do with it when we funded it? Do we put it straight to OPEB in its entirety and start chipping away at that, because it's about a $68 million obligation that we have? Or do we think about ways of funding OPEB, but also maybe not the full $5 or $6 million, so that it frees up some money in our budget to put toward capital projects or to put toward other departments that maybe are hurting for some sort of additional resources at this time? So there's a conversation to be had, and I would really like to have a seat at the table for that conversation, and it's a conversation that needs to happen with the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen. So I sat for quite some time with 2 members of the Finance Committee, John Skelnick and Jean Budenhagen, and I went over the numbers and learned as much as I could about the funding schedule and the structure of the payment schedule that we have. And then when that wasn't enough, I went and sought out Mary Thompson, who's our town accountant, and chatted with her. So all in all, from the time I decided to run until about a month ago, I rarely had a cup of coffee in my own kitchen, because I was just out meeting with people and really trying to get a handle on what are the main issues that are facing our community. And
Well, it seems to me that you've got a really good handle, and you've had a lot of coffee.
I have had a lot of coffee. Not enough this morning, but I have.
And you also spoke with Chief Vona?
I did. I went and met with Chief Vona, so I know that our fire department is, in his opinion, understaffed for a community our size. He also mentioned that at the budget hearings with the Finance Committee. Shrewsbury has grown significantly in the past 20 years. And something that I really did find interesting, we have Lakeway Commons coming on board. We have the assisted living facility on Walnut Street. We have a proposed 40B on Route 20. And that means just increased work for our fire department. And what else I thought was interesting was how, because we have 3 fire stations, we are actually called upon to respond when, let's say, there's an incident in Northborough Crossing, or an incident at the Westboro YMCA, or an incident, there's a facility, I think it's a propane facility on in Grafton that's near our Centec fire station, because our trucks can get there faster. So there's these different directions that our department is being pulled in that people might not even notice or know about if they don't, sit down with the
attention.
chief or
Right.
pay attention. So that's something that I'd like to know more about. How can we get those additional resources for our fire department? Because the last thing you want is to have a tragedy be the reason why you rethink the way you're doing things. And it's just important, I think, to have those conversations and talk about a plan for the future, knowing that we're going to have increased demand for fire services. I also got the behind-the-scenes tour of the police station with Chief Hester. Hopefully will not be in a jail cell anytime soon again, because it was unpleasant. I'd never seen that before off of TV. So he took me through and talked to me about why there's a need for doing something with a police station, whether it's a renovation or a rebuild. And at the Finance Committee budget hearings, there was discussion about how can we bring a project like this forward when we have something like Beal on the table. And a lot of times, you see with Sherwood and the library, projects like that come with dollars from the state or from a state grant.
Right.
Whereas
A reimbursement.
the police station is not going to. And so we need to come up with some way as a community to move forward with some sort of study of the building, and then some sort of plan as to when we're going to go to the community and say, look, this is what we need. How are we going to fund it?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned earlier, there are 5 candidates running, as we know. What qualifications do you have that set you apart from the other 4?
Well, I'm a former elementary school teacher, and I think that right there is a different perspective on the board. I know that while I've thought about running for the Board of Selectmen many times, I always talked myself out of it because I don't have a business background. But what I've proven to myself in these past few months is that even without a business background, I'm willing to do the hard work to go learn about the business-related aspects of being a select person, and I'm able to handle that because I'm able to do the work and ask questions when I need to. So what I really do believe is that background in education kind of makes me unique. I'll be the only member of the Board of Selectmen that was a teacher that understands what it's like in a classroom. I mentioned to you I have 2 children. I have a 5th grader and an 8th grader, and I'm actively involved in their schools. I'm the PTO president at Sherwood and Oak, and when they were in elementary school, I was in their classrooms volunteering on a weekly basis. Also, because I'm a teacher, I have to keep my license up to date, and I don't let that teaching license lapse. And so I take professional development courses on my own. And I try to make sure when I'm taking those courses that they relate to what I know is happening in the schools today. So most recently, I took professional development on English language learners, because that's something that's really hitting our community in a hard way, in that we have so many students with English language learner needs, and we need to find the staff to make sure to service them. And you especially see it at the high school, I've heard. So that's something I needed to get up to date on and know a little bit more about. So in that regard, I think having someone sitting on the Board of Selectmen that's able to advocate for what's truly needed in our schools is something different that we haven't seen before. The school committee, that's their job. They advocate for schools and education. But I like that I can bring that different perspective to the table at the Board of Selectmen and be able to say, I see what's happening in the classrooms, and what they're saying from school committee is spot on, or maybe disagree too if that opportunity presents itself, or I feel that would be the way to go. So I think that would be
That's a lot.
something to set me apart.
I think so. So what do you think of life on the campaign trail?
Life on the campaign trail is busy. I will say one of my favorite parts about it is just getting to talk to people. I love going door to door and being able to talk to residents about what's important to them. I also love the historical part of running. History in Shrewsbury and tradition in Shrewsbury is deeply rooted. And when I moved here in 2008, I became sort of a student of Shrewsbury. I remember from my own hometown, you have to know the who's who and the what's what. And there's certain people that you want to talk to if you want to get that historical perspective of why are we where we are. Because I believe that without honoring the history and understanding the history, you have a hard time moving forward. And so meeting with older residents hearing their perspective on how the town has changed, why we're in certain situations, what they think should be done better, but also talking to people who've moved here recently, as I did, and seeing what they want for the future of the town, and then trying to come up with a way in my own mind to combine the two to find a path forward that would be pleasing, to the majority. Because as I've heard just from sitting in the different budget hearings over the past 2 months, it's time for us to have a discussion and continue having a discussion about what kind of town we want to be going forward.
Right.
Especially because there's no rescue coming from the state as far as dollars. So to make sure that we have what we need in this community, whether it's the strong services that we enjoy or the strong public school system, that needs to come from us. And we need to decide how we're going to go about funding the things that we find are important to our community. So I love talking to people and being a part of that.
What do your daughters think of you as their mom running for office?
I have 2 daughters. I have a 13-year-old and I have a 10-year-old. And my 13-year-old is pretty much like any teenager, basically in her own world. So as long as food hits the table and the refrigerator's full, mom running is great. That's great. But my 10-year-old is into it. She really loves the campaign trail. She likes buttons and bumper stickers and sign holding and everything that goes with it. And it's been fun. I said, you can be my honorary campaign manager. And so she'll go with me. If there's an event at the library that I want to attend, she'll come along. When I turned in my papers at town hall, I made her take a picture of me so I could post it on Facebook. So she's having a lot of fun. She had to decide whether she wanted to go see a movie with a friend or go door to door with me over this coming weekend. And it was a tough decision for her.
And what did she decide?
She went to the movie, which is smart. But I'm like, you can door knock with me another day.
Right.
But she loves it. She really does. And she loves hearing about who's supporting you today, Mama, or who did you talk to today, and how did it go, and what did you learn? And it's wonderful to set this example for my daughters that, yes, I'm a mom, but I also have interests that extend beyond just my home, and that I'm doing this because I want to make sure the community stays strong for you. So I'm enjoying it, and I think they're enjoying it. It's certainly a family process.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So although I'm sure you don't have a whole lot of free time right now, what interests do you have apart from your campaign and being a mom?
Well, I'm going to try to answer this and not bring up things that involve volunteer work, because I do a lot of PTO things and things of that nature. But for me, every morning starts at 5 a.m. and I go to the gym and I work out for probably an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, and that's my time. And I found some people say, how do you get up at that hour? But I'm a disciplined person. I'm someone who's consistent, and so it just becomes second nature. And if you want that quiet time of the day before the kids can get up to say that they don't feel well and they're not going to school, or the phone starts ringing, I just take that time. For me, it's something I enjoy. I focus on just myself, clear my head, and start my day. And that to me is downtime. I also love to read. I end every day just reading before I go to bed at night or pass out when the book hits my face, which is not pleasant, but happens more than I'd like to admit.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
That's usually how I wake up. I'm like, okay, time to go to bed. But I love to read and always have more than one book going at a time. And I like to cook. Not that I get as much time as I would like to be creative in the kitchen, but I do like to cook. There's been plenty of jokes at my expense that every time I get involved in a campaign, my husband gets $8 chicken meals from Wegmans, and so my goal is to get through this campaign without serving my husband chicken from Wegmans, and making sure that we have the home front covered, because as much as my husband is helpful, he is not a cook.
He's not a cook. Well, we're almost out of time, so do you have any parting thoughts for the viewing audience?
Well, this has been great. The time goes by really quickly. I think what's most troubling to me is that turnout in municipal elections is very low. And I worry that people don't realize how critical a decision like this is. And whether they choose to support me or support another candidate, it's really important to go out and vote and take the time to get to know the candidates. There's 2 forums coming up. The India Society is having a candidates forum on April 1st at 12:30. And then the League of Women Voters is having a candidates forum on April 9th at 7 p.m. at Town Hall. And I think it's, whether you watch it on TV or you attend it, so important to be informed, because the decisions that you make in a local election impact the quality of life that you experience day to day. And the candidate that you choose should have values that mirror your own. And I just would encourage people to get out and vote on May 2nd and to make that a priority, and to tell their friends and neighbors to do the same thing.
What's going to be the first thing you're going to want to focus on when you're elected? Not if, but when.
Well, when I'm elected, the first thing I want to focus on is making sure that people in the town, even those that didn't vote for me, know that my door is open, and my phone, I pick it up, I answer it, my email, same thing, that I'm accessible to them, and that I still want to hear from them. It's not just something that's related to the campaign. I like to talk to people. I want to hear what they have to say, and my door will be open, and I will keep an open mind to new ideas and new thoughts and perspectives when I'm elected also.
I think your website will be, your campaign website will be scrolling, so if anybody out there wants to get a hold of Beth or find out more about Beth, to please check out the website online. And is your contact information on your website?
It is, and it's also very easy because it's just my name, bethcasavant@gmail.com. But it is all on my website, and
all on your website.
Easy to find.
And you're also on social media.
I am on Facebook and on Twitter, although I will tell you my Twitter skills are not fantastic, so Facebook is a better place to find me. Basically, all I do on Twitter is retweet things or like them.
And last question, where are you off to next on your campaign trail?
Well, next on my campaign trail is these 2 forums, candidate forums. Those are very important to make sure that I'm prepared, that I'm ready for the questions, and also that I encourage other people to attend. And that's something that is at the forefront of my mind right now.
Sounds good. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, audience. Thank you for your time, and make sure you get out and vote on Tuesday, May 2nd. Thank you.